Hey everyone, this is your stimulus check update, second stimulus check update, and stimulus package update for Thursday, October 1st. This video is for those of you on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and VA benefits, and for anyone else that's wondering about the second stimulus check and the stimulus package negotiations. In this video, I'll be going over the following topics. The Senate passed the government spending bill that will keep the government open until the end of the year. The House did not vote on the $2.2 trillion stimulus bill yesterday. We're going to talk about what is still holding up the negotiations between the House, as well as Steven Mnuchin, the Trump administration, and the Senate. And we're going to talk about how President Trump is eager to get a stimulus package deal signed. I want to welcome back those of you that have subscribed to my channel. Thank you once again for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, my name is Justin and I do stimulus check updates. So be sure to subscribe right now and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified each and every time I upload a new video. And if you find the content in this video helpful, please be sure to hit the like button so that YouTube will share the video with others like you. So last week, after Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin came to a deal, the House passed the spending bill that would make sure that the government has all of the funding that they need to continue government operations until December 11th. Yesterday, the Senate approved the bill, and now all of it is waiting is President Trump to actually sign it. President Trump did not sign the bill last night, and so technically the government is not funded today. However, it is expected that he will sign it this morning and that the government will resume operations in all of their offices and everything else, and that nothing will be shut down. This bill did also include $8 billion for nutrition assistance for school children, as well as renews the pandemic EBT food aid program for another year. It's amazing to me that the House and the Senate and the White House can actually work together on something and actually get it passed when it involves keeping the government open. However, when it comes to a stimulus proposal and stimulus package that would benefit the Americans a lot more than this government spending bill, they can't seem to come to an agreement, and that is super frustrating. There are millions of Americans that are struggling right now, some of which have already been evicted, and some of them are in fear of being evicted, and others just can't pay for food and other necessities of life. Despite the fact that both the Democrats and the Republicans have called for $1,200 stimulus checks in proposals that they have made for the next stimulus package, they still can't seem to reach a deal on the next stimulus package. The House did release a $2.2 trillion stimulus plan earlier in the week, and Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin have been negotiating the deal and negotiating the differences that the White House and the Trump administration, as well as the Senate, has with the House deal that Nancy Pelosi and the other House leaders have proposed. Yesterday, after Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin met for the first time in over a month face-to-face, there was word that the House was going to move forward with a vote on the $2.2 trillion deal yesterday. I think this would have been a disaster, as the $2.2 trillion deal did not have any Republican support and would have just basically been passed in the House and failed in the Senate, just like the HEROES Act did back in May. This wouldn't have been a good thing. And at least according to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, this wouldn't have had any chance of passing in the Senate when he said, "We are very, very far apart." Despite reports that the $2.2 trillion deal was going to be voted on last night by the House of Representatives, it was not voted on, which is actually a good thing. Pelosi and Mnuchin are still planning to meet once again today to try and hammer out the rest of their differences that both sides have. The fact that Nancy Pelosi delayed the vote until today could mean that they are closer to a deal than we think. And hopefully today, the Trump administration with Steven Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats can all agree on a comprehensive bill that will be more of a bipartisan bill that will pass in the House with a bipartisan nature and will also hopefully have a chance to pass in the Senate. That's what has to happen. Passing a $2.2 trillion deal in the House of Representatives without Trump's blessing and without the Senate's blessing is not a good idea, and it's just going to end up where we did back in May, which was nothing. During the 90-minute meeting yesterday, Mnuchin countered the original $2.2 trillion stimulus plan with some of the other provisions and some of the changes that they requested to get a deal done. It is reported that the White House proposed closer to a $1.5 trillion plan with boosters that would take it up to almost $2 trillion. That means the two sides, at least on the total dollar amount, are not very far apart. And Mnuchin described the counter-proposal as something similar to the Problem Solvers Caucus plan that was proposed a couple weeks ago by House Democrats and House Republicans. He also said of the stimulus talks, "We have made a lot of progress over the last few days. We still don't have an agreement, but we have more work to do, and we're going to see where we end up." White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows said of the negotiations, "I've seen substantial movement, yes, and certainly the rhetoric has changed." I really hope that's the case because basically Pelosi and the Trump administration were not on the same page and haven't been on the same page for over a month now. So the fact that Mark Meadows is saying that the rhetoric has changed, I'm really hoping that that's the case. So what are the things that they still don't agree on and what is still holding up this bill? The biggest obstacles continue to be liability protections for schools, businesses, and churches. This is something that the White House and the Trump administration have been calling for, but the House Democrats have not been very fond of. The Problem Solvers Caucus proposed what I thought was a great compromise in this when it asked that businesses and other organizations would be protected from liability as long as they were following enhanced OSHA guidelines. The other thing that's holding up these negotiations is Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats are calling for nearly $500 billion for state and local government assistance, while Republicans and the Trump administration are claiming that the state and local governments, many of them were having budget shortfalls and economic problems long before the pandemic even started. So that continues to be one of the major sticking points. Those things can be worked out. It will go a long way to getting a deal done today. So President Trump is one of the people that really wants to get a deal done. Stephen Mnuchin said, "It's the first time we've seriously re-engaged in what has been several weeks. The president would like to do a deal." So President Trump is eager to get a deal done. The question is, will he be able to go up in price to meet closer to what Nancy Pelosi is asking for? And it sounds like with a compromise that Mnuchin presented yesterday, and with the boosters that are included in that they are really close, at least on the final dollar amount. Nancy Pelosi has not budged at all from her $2.2 trillion number. In fact, she said that the American people are worth $2.2 trillion. And while I would say the American people are worth a lot of money, I would also say that if Pelosi is not willing to budge whatsoever and not willing to at least compromise on a couple of these things, like possibly the liability protections for businesses, among maybe some other things, then there's not going to be a deal at all, which means the American people would get $0. So I think Nancy Pelosi has to take that into account. And that's why a lot of the moderate Democrats in the House have been pushing for her to negotiate down a little bit from that $2.2 trillion and agree to some of the requests and the demands of the Trump administration and the Republicans as well. If Nancy Pelosi does not come down and does not agree to a couple of the things that the Republicans are asking for, then that would mean that there would be no second stimulus checks, no SNAP or WIC benefit increases, no rental assistance or mortgage assistance, as well as no unemployment benefit renewal. So Nancy Pelosi has to really keep in mind there are two sides to this deal, and even though she wants her $2.2 trillion deal with all of the things that she's wanting and that the House of Representatives is wanting, that there are some things that the other side wants as well, and in order to get a deal done, they're going to have to do some compromises. So either compromise and get a few of these last things worked out and have a deal that's really close to your $2.2 trillion number, or have no deal at all. It seems pretty easy to me that Nancy Pelosi should just say, okay, yes, these last couple demands that we don't agree on, we'll allow those. And since you guys have come up and we're really close to that $2.2 trillion number, that we'll just agree and we'll get this deal finally done. So with today being October 1st, a few things are actually happening right now, and one of which is the airline industries has basically said, American and United specifically have said that they're going to lay off up to 32,000 employees, or furlough, layoff or furlough, up to 32,000 employees if they cannot receive some sort of payroll assistance to help keep some of their employees on staff. So that's something that we definitely need to watch today. If the airlines lay off 32,000 people, that would also go along with about 28,000 people that Disneyland just laid off in California because they haven't been able to open back up at full capacity either. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of other small businesses across the country that have laid off or furloughed employees, and many other that have also just completely shut down their shops. So the difficulty is, while we are seeing a little bit of economic recovery in this country, there are still millions of Americans that are hurting. There are a lot of small businesses that are still going under and still struggling because, there are still lockdowns in a lot of areas. The country needs some assistance. Congress, you need to get this deal done. You need to agree to get some PPP funding for small businesses, get stimulus checks out to Americans, get unemployment insurance benefits back to the people that have lost their jobs through all this. I do feel like today is the best chance we've had in weeks to actually get a deal done. So I'm really hopeful that Pelosi and Mnuchin can hammer out the details, they can finally agree to a deal, and that the House will pass it in a somewhat bipartisan manner, and that the Senate will pass it hopefully in a bipartisan manner as well. I ask you guys need to pray for our leaders in Washington that they can come together, get a deal done, so that we can get some of the help that we need, so that many of you can get your stimulus checks as well as other provisions that are in this bill, rental assistance and some of the other things that so many of you are waiting on. I will keep you up to date on all the latest of these negotiations. And thank you once again for watching. I hope you have a great and wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon.